places that the city needs to be more mindful of what we're spending on these facilities. So having things indoors where you can use them 12 months out of the year, sizing them appropriately so that we can not subsidize them as much was critical to the design and the master plan. It was one of the things that we pushed on.
So I take it from what you just said that the size of the bill boils down to maybe a 5-second answer.
Sure.
The reason why our current city pool and Merriam Community Center projected project is arrived at the size that it is because we have a number in place that we cannot exceed the amount. And that number was voted on by the citizens of Merriam that took the time to go in and vote. So therefore, we're kind of constrained. If we spend more money than that, then we got to find a place for the money to come from. And we have already increased the size of the pool once, and that is because of the information that we received from many of the people in the audience. We've already made the pool larger than it started to be. So, but we were going to get to a point where something's got to give, right?
Correct.
We run out of money, guess where we're going to get the money from? And still be able to provide all the things that we promised people that we were going to provide in the process of getting to where we're at. And that's
correct.
An under. Ms. Downey?
Down in 9508 West 51st Street. As you've heard from many people here tonight, I'm going to suggest that we keep the current Merriam pool. How many of you guys would like to see us keep the current Merriam pool? Please stand up. Okay, here's the deal. We don't have the money supposedly to build a pool that people want or expect that is similar to what we've had. But we do have the money, and the Larkin study does say this pool could be restored. Why don't we just keep the pool we have and restore it? Everybody's happy, and you could get the library in there. Because if you take that piece of land, it's doable. It really is. Let's really seriously think about that, because in the end, I think everybody would be happy, correct? Right? Yep. I mean, really, if we're going to talk about compromise, because I think if we end up with a really, really poor design, which is what we have right now, and how we didn't get in there for inflation and why it wasn't core dug beforehand, I have no idea. As I told you before, I understand construction, concrete, commercial construction. Why these things were not looked at in advance blows my mind. I could go into more detail on this. This is why I've stood up here 4 times now or more and expressed myself. I have a beautiful, huge pool in my backyard. I don't have to be here, guys. I could be sitting watching Netflix with my cats. But I'm here because I care, all right? I want to see the best for this pool and this community, and it's not just the pool. People do ask, and I can see why, I can see the value of a library. I understand that. I'm not down on libraries. But you have to understand that everybody's sitting there going, okay, we're giving up this, and this is what we get. You've heard people talk about this community experience. It is a huge experience. It was an enormous experience in my life. When Kathy said what it meant to her kids, same thing with me. Terry Stanker said the same thing. I could go on with all these people. It gives you a sense of community. These young children in the crowd, senior high school kids and stuff, they've expressed it. And there are jobs out there. They paid for this last summer. They had, Prairie Village had too many guards. So, you pay the kids better, you'll have guards there. Please consider keeping it. It's not too late. I mean, that's a valuable asset. You know how much concrete costs a yard? I do. So, think about it, please. Thank you.
I think in the interest of time, I'm going to allow 2 more speakers. You had your hand up, and then Mr. Kirk, you'll be the last one. We do have the rest of our meeting to get through. I think we've heard from many of the people that signed up, obviously, and now we're starting to recycle folks, so I think we're kind of good.
Sheree Nicholson again, 6808 Maston Drive. So I want to bring up a couple of points that I would really like for you guys to consider as you're making all of these decisions. We've heard from a lot of people. One, if you were going to build a pool 30 years ago and say, okay, well, in 30 years it's not going to be good enough, we're going to have to demolish it so we can build something else. Nobody would have wanted that built in the first place. So you're going to build a new community center. Are you going to demolish it in 30 years because it's not going to be good enough? Okay, so think about longevity of what you're building. Okay, a pool should last longer than 30 years. I hardly say that that's worth tearing down. Stop the groundbreaking process right now, because obviously you're going to disappoint a lot of citizens in this community. stop the groundbreaking process because I know there's a scheduled date, and say, we need to give some serious consideration to this, and what are all of those things that we have to consider. Some of the things that you need to consider, I know you made a point about why you think the library is going to be a win-win. You know what? I love the library. My kids and I go there. We just as soon go to the Central Resource Library or another city to the library to keep our pool. Relocate somewhere else. Use the Irene B. French property. There's other property in Merriam. That's not the only property. And in order to have the large pool and the indoor facility, and I know you're saying, hey, it's not going to, but it will make a difference if we keep the outdoor pool as the size as it is, or we make another outdoor pool that's that same size. It will be an impact on the traffic, on amount of parking, on everything. So I think that the library, we really need to consider, like, they have no business in that space. I think that our pool is going to be incredibly overcrowded. Really would encourage you to address the issue of the super pass, because there's going to be a lot of issues to have to address. First of all, Roland Park has an indoor pool over the winter. Okay, on a super pass membership, I can't go to their indoor pool. I can't go to the Mission indoor pool. Okay, if we're going to open it up to everybody who's on the super pass, rainy day, our indoor pool is now going to be overcrowded. Nobody's going to want to be there. And if people are trying to go to the outdoor pool and it's overcrowded, what are you going to do? Send them away, and you've got a mom with kids saying, I'm sorry, you can't swim today because you don't have the super pass. And our pool's crowded, now you're going to have to go to another pool. I'm sorry, you can't go to another pool because you don't have the super pass. There's going to be a lot of issues that you haven't even thought of, that you really need to find out, people who have the super pass and from other cities, what those ramifications are going to be, having an indoor pool and allowing membership, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. Also, if you are going to be the leader, like I understood one of our young men made a point of saying, we need to be a leader. I have been to so many different pools, and I've seen all kinds of different amenities. If we're going to be the best, then why don't we look at what those amenities are at different pools, like the splash park, like the spray ground, a few different things, a lazy river, different things I like that we have, a low dive, high dive, two of the tubular slides, and then the only slide, like I mentioned before, in the baby area. And that brings me to a concern of safety for mothers. First, we have to have easy access to get our kids into the pool and not have to go through a big, long indoor area. We can come in and out. If it's going to rain or lightning, when do we shut down the pool? Do we shut down the outdoor and the indoor? Are they on the same water system? Do we leave the indoor pool open so now everybody wants to come to the indoor pool, and again, it's overcrowded? And safety, my son was learning to swim this summer. We visited another pool and found out that I had to actually rescue him one time because he had drifted a little too far out, and it was not a separate area. And so I really like having a baby pool in a separate area that does not go any deeper than 3 feet, because there's no way that they could get too far out and that be a safety concern. So there are a number of issues, and I would really encourage you to, I can't even mention all of them, but ask for surveys or emails from the citizens to say, what are the issues that we need to consider here, because we really need to take it back into consideration again, even though we've voted, we've expressed our concerns and stuff, and we need to go back to square one and say, what do we need to do here to make this really effective? Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Billy Cook, 6633 Wed Street. I've spoken before you guys before on a number of issues, but lately I've been kind of quiet about this, but I have been listening. I've heard a number of very passionate people today, and I thank you all for coming. This is the most, I've been coming to these meetings for about 2.5 years now, and I've never seen this many people here, and it's really cool to see it. But I am a very analytical person. I'm not as passionate about the pool, to be honest. I don't have kids. I moved to Merriam in 2014, so I don't have all these wonderful memories. But I like to think about the facts, and one thing I've heard a lot today, or several times today, and certainly in the previous weeks, was we didn't know the pool would be smaller. And I have to say, honestly, I did. In 2017, I went door to door, and I left pamphlets on about 200 houses, or flyers. I spoke to about 12 houses, and a smaller pool was something I was aware was planned. And in the diagram that I saw, it had 3 really small blobs for the pool, which I understand were not representative of what the actual plan was, but of the volume generally. So I knew that it was intended to be smaller, and that's something I did my best to communicate to people. And there were some people that were against it. And I told them, you know what, go out there and vote against it. If that's how you feel, I'm not going to tell you which way to vote, but I wanted to spread the information as best as I knew it. So whether or not that's, I didn't want the pool to be smaller, but that's what I understood the plan was to be, and I wasn't horribly opposed to it. There was some justification given to me by staff, the costs of pools are much larger the larger they are, things like that. But I just wanted to correct that for the record. We heard tonight about wristbands for the first time, and that was news to me. I never knew about that, and I'm thinking I don't want to wear wristbands at the pool.